Fanged up. What attracted you to the story?
You know, I'd wanted to work with Terry Stone for a little while. My agent had been in a few chats with him, and then he came to us with a couple of projects, and I really liked the role that he put forward to me as the role of a Russian vampire slayer, so it sounded something completely out there and something pretty cool, and I thought I'd give that a shot. And once I put a bit of dark dye in my beard, I looked kind of Russian, so it was a good fit for me.
And this film's a comedy, isn't it?
It's a comedy horror, so mix of both. We've got a very funny guy, Dan O'Reilly, who's kind of the star of the show, and he brings the laughs, I bring the anger and the violence. So comedy isn't my strong point, that's for sure.
So when we've got a film that has violence in it, I take it that you would have gone through some sort of choreography training?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a professional wrestler by trade, so I'm kind of a pseudo stuntman anyway. But in terms of simulated fighting and things like that, I'm naturally very good at that. So I didn't really need too much training, but there was a little bit of work with shotguns and explosions and stuff like that. That's kind of the specialist training I got. But for the most part, when it comes to throwing myself around and doing stunts, I can do that in my sleep at this point.
Did you go and channel your Van Helsing when you were doing this and find out about other vampire slayers and captures?
Yeah, not so much. Most of my focus prior to the shoot was working on my Russian accent because it's not something I'd ever done before, and suddenly I was told by Terry 2 weeks before the shoot, yeah, we need you to be a Russian, so figure out a Russian accent. Fortunately, I've got a few Russian friends, so I kind of just pretended I was them for the duration of the shoot, and I think it came off pretty well.
So a vampire story set in a prison. I imagine this is a story you just had to tell.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was important. No one's ever done a vampire story in a prison, I don't believe. So we're the first people, and we made it funny. So I think, you know, a funny film about vampires in a prison.
Yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's like, yeah.
Prison Break meets True Blood, but it's funny.
Not as romantic as well, I'd like to add, yeah.
Nobody fucks anybody in it. Basically, apart from the vampire.
Yeah, not unless behind the scenes, different story. It's like an orgy in there. It's awful. Yeah, it's a right mess.
Was it a prison orgy?
It was
a prison orgy, yeah.
Talking about prisons, you actually got to...
What do you want to talk about prison orgies for?
I'm sure there's plenty.
I'm joking.
I have to talk to you about the location because you did actually film in a real prison, didn't you?
Yeah, we found a prison called HMP Kingston, which was disused prison. It's been on all these TV shows as the most haunted prison in England. So we went, if we're doing a comedy horror, let's find a haunted prison. So it wasn't far from where Christian lived, so he could walk to work every day, which was a bonus.
That was the only reason I took the chance. Like, if I walk to work, I'm in. That's it, yeah.
And I imagine it helps as well for your actors because they're in the location and they can actually react to where they are.
Yeah, so basically, wherever you put a scene, you've got everything behind you. You turn that way, you've got the bar. So it's really great. There was no, you can't move sets, you can't move walls. They're like six feet thick. But everywhere you go, you've got something great to point a camera at. So you're kind of spoiled for choice in that respect.
And I imagine as well, you're going to have lots of blood and guts. It's a horror film. So prosthetics-wise, did you go as practically as you could to make the...
We got some tomato ketchup from... There's a local Wimp in Portsmouth, isn't there?
Luckily,
and we just sprayed people with the tomato... It looked quite convincing, I thought.
I think it works. No, I don't know. But no, there's a lot. We did practical effects as much as we could. Little and enhanced CG here and there. But yeah.
Visual effects were good though, weren't they?
Yeah, they worked well.
I mean, when you watch the film, you'll go... I mean, it definitely looks big budget. It doesn't look like we made it on a low budget.
Which we didn't. We didn't make it for a big budget.
We made it for 10 million.
Yeah, that's
right.
We
did. Yeah, 10 million. It's big budget. But low budget as in it wasn't 100 million. That's what I was referring to. Yeah.
Because the things have changed a lot in film over the last sort of few years. Is it as easy to find financing for films? Because obviously there'll be people watching that want to make their own film.
No, it's really hard. But I'm what do you call it? I'm one of them people that just keeps knocking on doors, and I'm actually a professional beggar now as a producer. So I go around with a thing saying, I've got this really good idea for a movie. Can I have some money, please? And every time I get a no, I'm closer to a yes. So I think you just have to be positive, and whatever you can get, that's what you have to work with. So if you can raise 10 grand, make your film for 10 grand. If you can get 100 grand, make it for 100 grand. Get a million, make it for a million. But I think whatever, you have to cut your cloth accordingly, and we're very lucky on this. As I said, we had an amazing special effects makeup woman called Emma Croft. We had amazing actors, and everybody just got involved in everyone. I mean, it was like a little family. We was all in a hotel there, and we kind of rolled out the hotel, done the filming, come back, everyone's in the bar getting drunk. It was probably an actor's paradise, wasn't it?
It's almost like we did time together. It was a little bit like that. We went in for a month and just went to prison together. But we were allowed out at the end of every day. Yeah, we were right in, very method.
Just going back briefly with regards to kind of having a limited budget to work with, do you think as a filmmaker it gives you more creativity because you can't just chuck money at it? It forces you to be...
Doesn't matter what budget he has, he always wants more.
Yeah.
So he goes, can't we have a bit more? Can't we have this? Can we blow up the prison? No, we can't. So, you know, as a director, I think you always want the best. So if you say that's all we got, he'll always go, I want more, because he wants the best for his film. So, you know, which we understand and we love.
That's kind of spot on. Yeah, you always, yeah, exactly. You just want to keep pushing. There's a few times where it's like, it's really about time is your biggest battle. You just haven't got time. So, as I say, Richard, have an extra day. No, you've got that. So sometimes you have to find a little way around it. But I must admit, there's a few times whereby probably cutting it short as we did is quite effective. So yeah, it's a good lean, fast, for, you know, movie. We shot lean, and we sort of, rattled through it very quickly.
Fanged up. What would attract you to this script?
The humour, actually. It's funny. It's funny. It's a lad. It's that lad. You know Dan, Dapper Daniel O'Reilly. Yeah. He kind of, it's his, that lad, Essex boy kind of sense of humour, and for some reason it reminded me of my childhood, my youth, and I thought, yeah, I got to do it.
And when you read the part that you're playing, what attracted you to him?
I can't really say, because he's a bit mad. He's just mad. He comes across at first as a very sinister, scary prisoner. Did you know it's set in a prison?
I was going to say set in a prison.
All set in a prison. Actually filmed in my hometown, Portsmouth, Kingston Prison in Portsmouth, which was great to go back to my hometown. And it's vampires run the prison and feed off the prisoners, basically. And I play a prisoner who at first you see him and you think he's Mr. Reeves, and you think, oh, he's scary, very scary. And I've got a lovely opening shot. It's very moody, dark, thin light on his face and lit from below, so lots of shadows and things. And you think, oh, he's scary, and then you realise very quickly there's something rather odd about him.
And I think it's quite a unique take as well on a vampire flick, because we've seen all kind of incarnations in the years of different adaptations of vampirism. So is there other things as well, apart from it set in a prison?
Vampirism, is that a real word? That is a word, vampirism. All right, okay. What? Sorry, I was so taken by vampirism, I forgot the question. What was the question?
If there's, apart from it being set in a prison, is there a new kind of incarnation of something we haven't seen from vampire?
The comedy, I think, the stupidity of it. At times, it is ridiculously stupid. It's a kind of a cross between a full-out horror film at some moments, with people getting their throats ripped right open. The vampires are not nice, pretty vampires. It's not. Oh God, I can't remember my brain dead. Sorry? Twilight. Yeah. Twilight. Yeah. It's not Twilight. Definitely not. This is much more kind of like guts, horrible.
We've got a vampire guards that feed off inmates, and it's a comedy. I imagine that's a script that you couldn't put down.
Absolutely. As a horror fan, I haven't been asked to do that many, but I've got more recently I've been asked to do a couple. So I was, gagging to do it as soon as I saw it.
And when you read the part that you play, what was it that you really wanted to do with it?
I don't get enough death scenes, and so to have a fun scene where I won't give anything away, but it's quite an unusual way to go. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, I definitely got to do that. Definitely.
And in that instance, because I imagine it's low budget, I say low budget, we have a certain amount, don't we, in England to spend on films. So with prosthetics and things like that, was it very practically made? Could you get really messy?
Very messy. They were really lucky with the location, which meant they didn't have to build any sets or anything for a lot of the interiors. It was this prison, as I said, has recently been a proper prison with like Class A prisoners in. So they had a lot of the locations were there ready to film in, which was brilliant. So I think that probably saved quite a bit of budget. And in terms of blood, there were buckets and buckets. It was very, very messy, believe me. Very messy.
Because it's a comedy horror, do you think the comedy is a nice balance juxtaposed, what is something that's quite horrific?
Definitely. I mean, I think comedy horror is a great genre. It's kind of, when it's done well, it's great because the two play off each other, and I think it works really well, and you can have a lot of fun with it.
You're one of the writers of the script, so tell us what was the inspiration for it?
Well, okay, well, Christian James, the director, and myself had a movie out at FrightFest a few years back called Stalled, which sold out 4 screenings, was a big success. And actually, Stalled was our own baby, but Fanged Up was a pre-existing script. And the guys that created it, Dan Riley and the producers, they wanted to punch it up, get it in sort of fighting fit shape. So they came to us, because we were the guys that did the zombies in a toilet film, so they came to us to do the vampires in a prison film. Our next film would be Werewolves in a Shoebox. And so we came on board. The script, they had great characters, a great concept, but it wasn't quite there. So I came in and sort of like put in some female, I did the female element. So there's Danielle Howard from EastEnders has come in, and she's done a great job as Dr. Makepeace. She's got her own agenda. She's got some mystery she's trying to sort of solve. And then she meets up with Dan, who plays Jimmy Ragsdale, who's this guy that gets sent to prison for a crime he didn't really commit. And then they slowly find out that the prison isn't just a prison, it's a larder for vampires run by Mr. Stephen Burkoff. Yes, the great British Burkoff is in the film.
You can't get better than that.
Oh no, you can't beat a bit of Burkoff.
And vampirism, what is it about it? We've never fallen out of love with it, have we?
I don't know. I think it changes with the times, and like a lot of subgenres, vampires seem to, with the AIDS epidemic in the 80s, and sort of like what's going on now in the current climate. Vampires always seem to sort of, ironically, shapeshift to whatever's going on in our present day. So they're always fun to play around with, and we can always subvert them and muck around with them, be it either do it straight, seriously, or do it kind of add a bit of silliness like we do with this one. I think Fanged Up has its feet in both camps. We have a bit of the kind of once bitten, sort of love at first bite kind of silliness, but we also have the kind of like sort of Nosferatu, Dracula type sort of stuff too. And I think if you're a vampire fan, you'll see lots of Easter eggs I put through. That was one of the things I added. A lot of Lost Boys.
Great t-shirt.
Lost Boys Easter eggs, Once Bitten Easter eggs. Do you remember Once Bitten? A Vamp, Near Dark. They're some of my favourite movies. So Dan O'Reilly is scared. He's going to hate me for saying this. He's scared of horror movies, so he's going to be watching through his own fingers, watching his own movie. And so, like, he knew that I would bring that to the table. So, being an absolute 80s vampire nerd, like for example, Danielle Howard from EastEnders, her character is Dr. Makepeace, named after Chris Makepeace from Vamp. My character, I play Custody Sergeant Paxton, named after Bill Paxton, God rest his soul. It was real sad because he's a hero of mine. He died between us shooting it and coming out. So I'm glad there's a little tribute to one of my heroes in there.
And what is it like for an actor kind of then what he's written, adapting and then acting his own words, I suppose?
Well, Dan O'Reilly was really lovely. Like, I was worried because they came to me and asked me to sort of beef up the script, improve it, tweak it, whatever. And he had a great concept, but it was his first script. So, the plot was lacking, and like the horror element was lacking, not being a horror fan. So that's why I came in. And when I kind of came up with this rewrite, I changed a lot. I subverted what people think of Dan O'Reilly, spoofed his character a bit, got put in some very silly situations. So when he got the script, I was thinking he's going to knock my block off. He's going to go nuts, and he loved it. And that's what's really great about it. He's not what you think. And he could have been a real diva and thrown his toys out the pram. But he was really grateful for what I did, and I think hopefully the audience today at FrightFest will see sort of there's a real love for the vampire mythology, a real love for vampire movies, especially the 80s vampire movies. And if they like me and Christian's previous movies, Stalled and Freak Out, if you like horror comedies, if you like sort of stuff like Vamp and Fright Night, I think you're going to get a real kick out of Fanged Up.
And you're obviously used to being in front of camera, but what was it like actually acting in front of camera?
Well, I always thought that I was an actor because I do it anyway, like on my camera and stuff like that, but then I realised very quickly that I'm not. So, a hard thing for me was starting the film halfway through, yeah? So some of the scenes were like, I've just been chased by vampires, and that was like the first day. So Christian basically taught me how to act the whole way through it without being funny. He taught me how to act, taught me what to do, and I took it on and I just done it. But it was very difficult for me. To be honest with you, it was difficult.